Good morning. I'm Dr. Paul Jones. I'm going to talk to you today about how to succeed in dentistry and in life. To begin with a little bit about me, I grew up on a small farm about 70 miles south of Lincoln, just into Kansas, and for the first 2 years I went to a one-room school. I just about flunked out of college in the 60s because I didn't know how to study and I liked to party. And then I met my wife. She turned me around, as women sometimes do for men, and I was able to get into dental school. I actually graduated early, and I practiced general dentistry in Orange, Kansas for a couple of years, and then went to University of Nebraska-Lincoln for my endo training. I got out in '78. So here's this one-room country school that I attended. Notice that there's a pump out in the front. That's where we would get our drinking water. There was a wood-fired stove in the back. Notice the outhouses, and there were students from grades 1 through 8 and only one teacher. This is not the anatomy class I had in dental school, but it's not that far away. Ours was the first class to attend all 4 years at the new dental school, and our anatomy instructor used mannequins instead of dissecting, and it turned out we did better on the exams than those who dissected. So after getting out of residency, I practiced private. I was in a private endo practice for 35 years in various places in the Kansas City area. I was an early adopter of computers in the office, digital x-rays, first endodontist in town with a cone beam CT. Another interesting thing about my life is I took a mid-career, I took a year off and lived aboard a sailboat in the Caribbean with my family over the millennium. And I wrote a book about it. It's called From Farm to Ocean. It's available on Amazon. This is the a link to it if you would like to pick up a copy, both in Kindle and paperback. This is the route that we took. We sailed from Florida directly to the east coast of Puerto Rico, and then we island hop all the way to Trinidad, which is off the coast of South America, and then came back through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and the Bahamas. This is my older daughter. She and our first sailboat. She was kind of the inspiration for the trip. When she was in high school, she said, "Dad, when I graduate, why don't you take a year off and we'll sail around the world?" Instead, we waited till she was out of college and we sailed around the Caribbean. But it was a life-changing and a wonderful experience. This is the model of boat that we lived aboard. It's an Island Packet 45 monohull sailboat. I retired 10 years ago. I got my captain's license and started a sailing charter business in Florida. This is not the boat that I did that on, but this is another boat. Here's the website. If you go to stewartsailing.com, you'll find more about it and about me. So, disclaimer on all this, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant or a practice management consultant or a marketing expert. I would encourage you to seek advice from those who are. Know that I've been out of clinical practice for over a decade, so I don't have the latest and greatest in the clinical side, and the tax laws change. The only thing you can actually count on is change. Things are gonna change. But don't take this as either legal advice or clinical advice. I'd like to talk to you about professionalism, how to keep your skills and knowledge up to date, how to communicate with your patients and also with staff and referring doctors. Again, building a successful practice and maintaining a work-life balance. So as far as professionalism, my mother always taught me that honesty is the best policy. Maintaining a high standard of ethics is really important. If you don't know what that is, go to this link in the ADA and they'll talk about the code of ethics. Treat the other practitioners as colleagues, not competitors. But most importantly, I always stressed in my practice to my staff and myself mentally to treat all your patients as if they were an honored guest in your house, because they are the most important person in your practice and they should be treated that way. Also, treat your staff as the valuable assets they are. And also admit to yourself when you make a mistake and learn from it. So how do you develop and maintain your clinical skills and knowledge? Take more continuing education than is required by law. Read, read, read. Subscribe to online journals and read them. Mark Twain famously said, those who don't read have no advantage over those who can't. Now, back in his day, a large portion of the population couldn't read, but nowadays, many people don't. Consider teaching. I find that I learn more when I'm teaching than I do when I'm reading journal articles. So also stay informed about the newest technologies and techniques, but don't be the first nor the last to adopt the latest and greatest thing. Be sure that just because it's the newest thing, it may not be tested and true. Another way to stay up with news outside of dentistry are what are called news aggregators. I rely on the first three, so Google News, Apple News, and Flipboard, and you can specify or you can kind of tailor them to the stories you're most interested in, whether it's science or medicine or politics or photography or sailing or anything. You can personalize them. So other ways to keep up your clinical skills and knowledge is to go to dental meetings and actually attend the lectures and visit the exhibits and take any hands-on classes that they offer that you're interested. Back in my day, they had in-person study clubs. I assume that there are some online ones now. The in-person ones locally are a great way to build your practice, not only learn, but also teach. And so you can find referrals that way. And don't ignore your dental supply representative. They're not just a salesman. They know some of this, they know what's coming down the pipeline. They know the latest and greatest. And then I assume now that one of the main things that you are learning in your residency is how to evaluate research. So was the research project done correctly? Did they do you agree with their conclusions? And also, when new techniques, materials, and devices come out, what is the research on them? Does it do what they say it does? Photography is one of my hobbies. This is just a tree bark turned on its side. So what about patient communications? You need to learn to effectively communicate with your patients as well as your referring doctors. Address patients' concerns and expectations. It's good to have both oral and written descriptions of the treatment in a language they can understand. If the person is with little or no education, don't use jargon. If the guy's got a PhD or an MD, then go ahead. So you need to tailor your communication with the perceived level of education, and it's also good to have things in writing.